Kill your negative thinking, Marcus Aurelius Stoicism. Hey there! What if I told you that 85% of us are fighting a secret battle, one that's happening right inside our own heads? Negative self-talk sneaks in, dims our confidence, and keeps us from living the life we dream of. It's like an uninvited guest who shows up at the worst times, whispering doubts that make us question our worth, our abilities, and our potential. But here's the kicker: you can take control. You don't have to let those thoughts run the show. Welcome to today's video, where we're unlocking the power of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that's like a mental superpower. This isn't just about silencing that pesky inner critic. It's about building a life full of purpose, strength, and joy. So, grab a comfy spot, maybe a notebook, and let's dive into how to master your mind and kick negative thinking to the curb. If this sounds like the journey you're ready for, stick with me, and let's get going. Now, before we dive into the nitty-gritty, let's take a moment to set the stage. Imagine waking up in the morning, ready to tackle your day, but before you even get out of bed, your brain starts chiming in with thoughts like, "You're not good enough," or "Why even bother? You'll probably fail." Sound familiar? That's negative self-talk, and it's not just a fleeting bad mood, it's a habit that can seep into every corner of your life. It affects how you approach your work, how you connect with friends and family, and even how you see yourself in the mirror. It's like carrying around a heavy backpack full of doubts, slowing you down and making every step harder than it needs to be. But here's the thing: you don't have to keep carrying that weight. There's a way to set it down, and that's where Stoicism comes in. Stoicism isn't some dusty old philosophy reserved for scholars in togas. It's a practical, down-to-earth guide for living well, no matter what life throws at you. Born over 2,000 years ago in ancient Greece and Rome, Stoicism was the go-to mindset for people like Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who faced war and betrayal, and Epictetus, a former slave who turned his hardships into wisdom. These guys weren't just thinking deep thoughts, they were mental warriors, training their minds to stay calm, focused, and resilient in the face of chaos. And the best part? Their insights are just as relevant today as they were back then. Whether you're stressed about a big presentation, feeling stuck in a rut, or just tired of that inner voice dragging you down, Stoicism offers tools to take back control. So, what's the core of Stoicism? It's this: you can't always control what happens around you, traffic jams, cranky coworkers, or unexpected setbacks, but you can control how you respond. Your thoughts, your perspective, your reactions, those are yours to shape. Think of it like being the captain of a ship in a stormy sea. The waves might be wild, but you decide how to steer. Stoicism teaches you to focus on what's in your power and let go of the rest, which is a game-changer when it comes to negative thinking. Instead of letting your brain spiral into, "What if I fail?" or "What if everyone judges me?" you can learn to pause, question those thoughts, and choose a mindset that lifts you up. I want to invite you to share this video with anyone who could use a boost on their personal growth path. Maybe it's a friend who's been feeling down or a family member who's stuck in a cycle of self-doubt. And if you vibe with what we're exploring today, hit that subscribe button. It's a free way to support this channel and join our community of curious minds. Alright, let's jump into the heart of it. Why do so many of us wrestle with negative thoughts, and how can Stoicism set us free? We're about to unpack why our brains get stuck in these patterns, where those thoughts come from, and, most importantly, how to fight back with practical, Stoic-inspired strategies. Get ready, because this is where the real transformation begins. The silent struggle. Understanding negative thinking. Picture this: you roll out of bed, eyes still half closed, and before you even brush your teeth, your brain's already at it, whispering, "You're not good enough," or "Today's gonna be a total mess." Sound familiar? That's negative self-talk, and it's not just a passing bad vibe, it's a sneaky habit that can worm its way into every corner of your life. From the decisions you make at work to how you connect with friends and family, those pesky thoughts can make you feel like you're wading through thick, sticky mud, slowing you down and draining your energy. It's like carrying an invisible weight that makes every step harder than it needs to be. But here's where things get exciting. The Stoics, those wise folks from over 2,000 years ago, had a battle plan for tackling this exact issue. They weren't just philosophers sitting around in fancy robes, stroking their beards. They were mental warriors, training their minds to stay steady, focused, and resilient no matter what life threw their way. So, what's negative thinking really about? It's that frustrating pattern where your brain leaps straight to the worst-case scenario, doubts your abilities, or convinces you that you don't deserve success. It's like having a grumpy roommate living rent-free in your head, always pointing out what's wrong, what could go wrong, or why you're bound to fail. Maybe you're about to give a presentation, and your mind's screaming, "You'll forget everything, and everyone will laugh." Or you're thinking about asking someone out, and your brain chimes in, "Why bother? They're way out of your league." These thoughts aren't just annoying, they can stop you in your tracks, making you second-guess yourself or avoid taking action altogether. And here's a jaw-dropping stat. 85% of people deal with this at some point, struggling with low self-esteem tied to these negative thoughts. That's massive. It's like, whoa, what's going on in our brains? The Stoics would say it's not just random noise, it's a signal that we need to take charge of our thoughts and steer them in a better direction. Let's dig a bit deeper into why this matters. Negative self-talk doesn't just ruin your mood, it shapes how you see the world and yourself. Imagine you're up for a promotion at work. You've got the skills, you've put in the hours, but that inner voice keeps muttering, "You're not ready, you'll mess it up." Suddenly, you're hesitating, maybe even sabotaging yourself by not preparing as well as you could. Or think about your relationships. If you're constantly telling yourself, "I'm not lovable," or "I always say the wrong thing," it can make you pull back, avoid opening up, or misread other people's intentions. Over time, these thoughts become a filter, coloring everything you do and turning opportunities into obstacles. It's like wearing glasses that only let you see the flaws in yourself and the world. The Stoics, though, had a different lens. They believed that our thoughts aren't just fleeting ideas, they're the building blocks of our reality. If you let negative thinking run wild, it's like letting that grumpy roommate redecorate your entire house with gloom and doom. But if you take control, you can redesign your mental space to be a place of strength and clarity. Stoicism teaches that while you can't control external events, like a rude boss or a rainy day, you can control how you interpret and respond to them. That's where the Stoics' mental warrior training comes in. They practiced questioning their thoughts, challenging their fears, and focusing on what truly matters. For example, a Stoic like Epictetus would say, "It's not the thing itself that bothers you, it's your opinion of it." That's a game changer. It means you have the power to shift your perspective, to choose thoughts that empower you instead of dragging you down. So, how do you start? The Stoics would suggest beginning with awareness. Notice when that negative voice pipes up. Don't just let it ramble, call it out. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Often, you'll find it's just a habit, not a fact. From there, you can start rewriting the script, and that's where the real transformation begins. The Stoic superpower: controlling your perspective. So, what's the Stoic secret to shutting down this mental chaos? It boils down to one game-changing idea. You can't always control what happens out there in the world, but you can control how you think about it. Picture life like a wild, stormy ocean, with waves crashing and winds howling. Your mind, it's the ship navigating those turbulent waters. The Stoics teach you how to steer that ship, keeping it steady even when the storm's at its worst. They believed our thoughts aren't just background chatter or random noise, they're the megaphone that blares loud and clear, deciding whether we're thriving with purpose or just barely surviving, treading water. And here's the best part: you get to choose what that megaphone's blasting. You're the one holding the controls, and with a bit of practice, you can turn down the volume on doubt and crank up the confidence. Let's make this real with a story to bring it home. Imagine you're up for a big promotion at work. You've put in the hours, nailed your projects, and you're ready to shine. But the night before the big interview, your brain starts spiraling like a runaway train. What if I choke? What if I forget everything? What if they laugh and think I'm a total joke? That's negative thinking doing its dirty work, and it's not just annoying, it's powerful enough to stop you from even showing up. It's like a mental roadblock, making you doubt your preparation, your skills, even your worth. You might start overthinking every detail, losing sleep, or worse, talking yourself out of going for it altogether. Sound familiar? We've all been there, stuck in that mental quicksand. The Stoics, though, would step in like wise coaches and say, "Whoa, hold up. Those thoughts, they're not the truth. They're just your brain's knee-jerk take on what might happen, not what will happen." A Stoic named Epictetus, who went from being a slave to one of history's greatest thinkers, nailed it with this gem: it's not the things that mess us up, it's the way we see them. That promotion isn't the problem. The interview isn't the enemy. It's the scary story you're telling yourself about it. the one that's painting you as doomed before you even start. The Stoics would urge you to pause, take a breath, and question that story. Is it based on facts, or is it just fear running wild? Spoiler alert, it's usually the latter. This idea is at the heart of Stoicism's power. It's about recognizing that your thoughts are not reality, they're interpretations, and you have the power to rewrite them. Let's stick with that promotion example. Instead of letting your brain catastrophize about failing, a Stoic approach would be to reframe the situation. Try this: I've prepared, I know my stuff, and even if I stumble, I can handle it. That's not blind optimism. It's a realistic perspective that focuses on what's in your control. You can't control the interviewer's opinion or the outcome, but you can control your effort, your attitude, and how you show up. By shifting your focus to those things, you quiet the mental noise and step into the moment with clarity. Why does this work? Because Stoicism teaches you to separate what's in your power from what's not. The weather, other people's moods, random curveballs, those are outside your control, and worrying about them is like trying to lasso a cloud. But your thoughts, your choices, your reactions, those are yours to shape. Epictetus would say that's where your freedom lies. By focusing on your inner world, you become like a captain who knows how to navigate any storm, not because the sea gets calmer, but because you've mastered the helm. This mindset isn't just for big moments like job interviews. It's for everyday life, when you're stuck in traffic, dealing with a grumpy coworker, or facing a personal setback. The Stoics believed that every challenge is a chance to practice this mental discipline, to choose thoughts that keep you grounded and moving forward. It's like building a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger you get. Why we fall into the trap: the roots of negative thoughts. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, but why does my brain keep doing this? Why am I my own worst enemy? That's an awesome question, and it deserves a deep dive. Negative thinking doesn't just pop up out of nowhere like an uninvited guest. It's more like a weed with roots that stretch way back, sometimes all the way to when we were kids. Maybe a teacher once told you you weren't smart enough for a subject, or a parent pushed you to be perfect, making every mistake feel like a catastrophe. Those moments, even if they seemed small at the time, can plant tiny seeds of doubt that grow into a dense jungle of insecurity over the years. They stick with you, shaping how you see yourself and the world around you. And let's not ignore the world we live in today. It's like a megaphone blasting messages that you're not measuring up. Social media, ads, and news are relentless, shouting that you're not rich enough, fit enough, successful enough, or even happy enough. Scroll through your feed, and it's a parade of perfect lives, flawless vacations, glowing skin, thriving careers. It's like a 24/7 broadcast screaming, "You're falling behind." No wonder our brains get stuck in a loop of self-criticism. These external pressures pile on, watering those seeds of doubt until they sprout into full-blown negative thinking patterns that feel impossible to shake. Then there's our own personal history, which can act like fertilizer for these mental weeds. Every time you faced a setback, like bombing a test, getting passed over for a promotion, or being rejected by someone you cared about, it's easy for your brain to tuck that moment into a mental scrapbook labeled, "Proof I'm not good enough." Each failure or criticism adds another page, and before you know it, you're flipping through that scrapbook every time you face a new challenge. It's like your mind is building a case against you, using past stumbles as evidence that you're not capable. But here's the Stoic twist that flips this on its head: those failures? They're not the problem. It's how you interpret them that matters. Epictetus, one of the Stoic heavyweights, would remind us that it's not the events themselves that shape our reality, it's our view of them. That test you failed doesn't define you. That rejection doesn't mean you're unworthy. It's the story you tell yourself about those moments that keeps you trapped. Carl Jung, a psychologist whose ideas vibe beautifully with Stoicism, adds another layer to this. He argued that our negative thoughts often spring from the unconscious, those hidden beliefs and fears we don't even realize we're carrying. Maybe you grew up hearing you had to be perfect, so now your unconscious whispers that anything less is failure. Or maybe a childhood embarrassment left a buried belief that you're always going to mess up in front of others. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." In other words, those sneaky, hidden beliefs are secretly running the show, making you think your struggles are just how things are, when really, they're rooted in thoughts you can challenge and change. So, where do these unconscious beliefs come from? They're shaped by a mix of things: early experiences, like a harsh word from a coach or a moment of feeling left out; cultural messages that glorify perfection and success; even the stories we inherit from our families or communities. For example, if you grew up in an environment where mistakes were punished, you might carry an unconscious fear of failure that fuels negative self-talk. Or if society's constantly telling you that happiness comes from wealth or status, your brain might decide you're less than because you don't have those things yet. These beliefs hide in the shadows, driving your thoughts without you even noticing. The Stoics and Jung would agree on this. To break free, you've got to shine a light on those hidden roots. Start by noticing when negative thoughts pop up. Ask yourself, where's this coming from? Is this a fact, or just a story I've been telling myself? Often, you'll find it's tied to an old memory or a belief you didn't even know you had. By bringing it into the open, you take away its power. It's like pulling a weed out by the root, tough at first, but it stops it from growing back. The Stoic Toolkit: challenging your thoughts. So, how do we start pulling those weeds of negative thinking that choke our confidence and cloud our minds? The Stoics hand us a toolkit, and let me tell you, it's packed with practical, no-nonsense strategies that actually work. These aren't fluffy self-help tips. They're battle-tested methods from some of the toughest minds in history. One of my favorite tools comes from Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who was basically the poster child for Stoicism. This guy wasn't just ruling an empire. He was waging a daily war against his own doubts and fears. His trick: he'd sit down and grill his thoughts like a lawyer in a courtroom. If his brain piped up with something like, "You're not up for this," he'd fire back with questions. "Is that true? Where's the proof? Is this thought helping me or just dragging me down?" By doing this, he could sift through the irrational noise and get to the truth. And the best part? You can do this too. Next time your mind starts spinning out of control, hit pause and ask, is this thought based on facts, or am I just assuming the worst? Let's make this super practical so you can try it out yourself. Say you're stressing about a big presentation at work. Your brain's going full-on doomsday mode, whispering, "You're gonna flop, everyone's gonna judge you, and you'll probably get fired." Ouch, right? That kind of thinking can make you want to hide under your desk. Instead, grab a piece of paper, or even the Notes app on your phone, and write down that thought exactly as it pops up: "I'm gonna flop, and everyone will judge me." Now, take a deep breath and write the flip side, something like, "I've prepared, I know my stuff, and I can handle this." Step back and compare the two. Which one feels more grounded in reality? Which one gives you the energy to show up as your best self? This exercise isn't about slapping a fake smile on your face or pretending everything's perfect. It's about choosing thoughts that lift you up instead of chaining you to fear and doubt. This strategy works because it forces you to slow down and question the stories your brain is telling you. Negative thoughts often feel true because they're loud and persistent, like a bully shouting in your ear. But when you put them under the microscope, you'll often find they're flimsy, built on assumptions rather than evidence. Marcus Aurelius was a master at this. He'd remind himself that thoughts are just opinions, not facts, and you don't have to believe every single one that pops into your head. It's like sorting through junk mail. You don't open every envelope, you toss what's not worth your time. Let's take it a step further. This questioning technique isn't just for big moments like presentations. You can use it every day, for the small stuff too. Maybe you're beating yourself up because you snapped at a friend or forgot to hit a deadline. Your brain might say, "You're a terrible person," or "You always mess things up." Stop right there. Write that thought down, then challenge it. Ask, is this true? Do I always mess up, or is this just one moment? What's a fairer way to see this? You might end up with something like, "I made a mistake, but I can learn from it and do better next time." That's the Stoic way, replacing knee-jerk negativity with clear, rational thinking that moves you forward. Why is this so powerful? Because it puts you back in the driver's seat. Negative thoughts can feel like they're controlling you, but Stoicism teaches that you're the one with the power to choose which thoughts to entertain. By questioning and reframing, you're not just pulling weeds, you're planting new seeds for confidence and resilience. It's like tending a mental garden, clearing out the junk to make room for thoughts that help you grow. So, next time your mind starts spiraling, channel your inner Marcus Aurelius. Grab that pen, ask those tough questions, and watch how quickly you can shift from stuck to empowered. Taming fear. the Stoic antidote. Now, let's zoom in on one of the biggest culprits behind negative thinking: fear. Fear's like that overprotective friend who means well but ends up stressing you out to the max. It's totally normal to worry about failing, looking silly, or not measuring up. It's your brain's built-in alarm system trying to keep you safe from harm. But when fear gets a little too comfortable in the driver's seat, it can spiral into what the Stoics called catastrophic thinking. You know the vibe. You miss a deadline at work, and suddenly your brain's off to the races with, "That's it, you're fired, you'll be broke, homeless, and nobody will ever like you again." Total overkill, right? It's like your mind's writing a disaster movie starring you, and it's not even based on reality. The Stoics, being the mental ninjas they were, had a brilliant strategy for taming this kind of runaway fear. It's called the premeditation of evils, and don't let the grim name spook you. It's actually a super practical, down-to-earth tool. The idea is simple. You sit down and imagine the worst thing that could happen, but instead of letting it send you into a panic, you look at it calmly, like a scientist studying a specimen, and ask, "Could I handle that? What would I do next?" It's like taking the monster out of the closet and realizing it's just a shadow. Let's break this down with a real-life example to show you how it works. My friend Sarah used to dread public speaking like it was the end of the world. Every time she had to give a presentation at work, her brain would go into full-on panic mode, screaming, "You'll forget everything, you'll sound like an idiot, and everyone will think you're a fraud." It got so bad she'd feel sick just thinking about it, and she'd do anything to avoid speaking up in meetings. I shared the Stoic premeditation of evils trick with her, and she decided to give it a shot. She sat down one evening and thought, "Okay, what's the absolute worst-case scenario? I stumble over my words, maybe someone snickers, or I blank out for a second." Then she asked herself, could I survive that? Would my life fall apart? The answer was clear. Yeah, she could handle it. Her job would still be there, her skills wouldn't vanish, and her worth as a person? Totally intact. That simple exercise was like flipping a switch. It didn't make her love public speaking overnight, but it took the edge off her fear. When the next presentation rolled around, she got up there and, guess what? She crushed it. Not because she was suddenly flawless, but because she wasn't paralyzed by that fear anymore. She could focus on her message instead of the what-ifs. Why is this Stoic tool so effective? Because it strips fear of its power by forcing you to face it head-on, but in a controlled way. Instead of letting your imagination run wild with vague, terrifying possibilities, you pin down the worst-case scenario and look at it logically. Often, you'll find it's not nearly as bad as your brain makes it out to be. The Stoics knew that fear thrives in the unknown, so by shining a light on it, you shrink it down to size. Plus, this exercise builds confidence because it reminds you that you're tougher than you think. Even if the worst happens, you've got the smarts and resilience to figure out what's next. You can use this technique for pretty much anything that's got you anxious. Say you're nervous about a tough conversation with your boss. Sit down and think, worst case? They disagree with me, maybe get annoyed. Could I deal with that? Chances are, you'll realize it's not the end of the world. You can handle a bit of tension or find ways to move forward. Or maybe you're scared to try something new, like starting a side hustle. Premeditate the evils. What if it flops? I might lose some time or money. Could I recover? Spoiler: you probably could. This isn't about ignoring risks, it's about seeing them clearly so they don't control you. By practicing this Stoic move, you're training your mind to stay cool under pressure, turning fear from a roadblock into just a speed bump. Rewiring your mind. The Stoic path to thriving. Alright, we've dug into how negative thoughts sneak into our minds like uninvited guests and how Stoicism gives us the tools to show them the door. But let's talk about the bigger picture. Not just surviving those mental battles, but actually thriving in a way that feels deeply fulfilling. This is where Stoicism gets seriously exciting. It's not about plastering a fake smile over your struggles or pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's about building a mindset that's strong, adaptable, and rooted in what truly matters. A mindset that lets you face life's ups and downs with confidence and purpose. The Stoics called this living a life of virtue, which means focusing on qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. These aren't just fancy buzzwords you'd find on a motivational poster. They're the foundation of a life you can look back on and feel genuinely proud of. A life where you're not just getting by, but truly flourishing. Let's zero in on wisdom, because it's the beating heart of this transformation. Wisdom, in the Stoic sense, isn't about knowing random trivia or being the smartest person in the room. It's about knowing yourself inside and out, your strengths, your weaknesses, and the thoughts that shape your reality. Aristotle, whose ideas share some DNA with Stoicism, hit the nail on the head when he said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." That means taking a long, honest look at what's going on in your head. Which thoughts are cheering you on, pushing you to grow? Which ones are sabotaging you, whispering doubts that hold you back? This kind of self-reflection can be tough, because negative thoughts often feel like old friends. They're so familiar, so comfortable, that you might mistake them for truth. But here's the game changer. Those thoughts aren't you. They're just habits, patterns your brain has fallen into over time. And just like any habit, whether it's biting your nails or hitting the snooze button, those mental habits can be rewritten with intention and practice. So, how do you start rewiring your mind for wisdom and thriving? One powerful way is by surrounding yourself with positivity. Now, I'm not talking about toxic positivity, where you ignore real problems or pretend life's all rainbows and unicorns. I mean intentionally choosing people, places, and ideas that spark growth and remind you of your potential. Seneca, a Stoic heavyweight who knew a thing or two about navigating tough times, said, "Stick with people who make you better." Take a moment to think about your circle. Do the people around you lift you up, challenge you to be your best self, and inspire you to keep going? Or do they drag you down with endless complaints, negativity, or drama? It's okay to set boundaries and seek out those who bring out the best in you. Life's too short for relationships that dim your spark. And it's not just about the people you hang with. Your environment plays a huge role in shaping your mindset. The books you read, the podcasts or music you listen to, the shows you binge, even the vibe of your workspace, they all leave an imprint on your mind. Imagine your brain like a garden. What you plant and nurture is what grows. If you're constantly feeding it negativity, scrolling through toxic comment sections or surrounding yourself with clutter and chaos, that's going to take root. But if you fill your world with things that inspire and uplift, like thought-provoking books, meaningful conversations, or a tidy desk with a favorite quote pinned up, you're planting seeds for strength and clarity. Ask yourself, what's in my mental garden right now? Are there weeds I need to pull, or can I add something that'll help me bloom? This approach ties back to Stoic wisdom because it's about focusing on what's in your control. You can't control every person or situation you encounter, but you can choose who you spend time with, what you consume, and how you set up your space. By curating an environment that supports your growth, you're not just surviving negative thinking, you're creating the conditions to thrive. It's like giving your mind the right soil, sunlight, and water to grow something beautiful. So, start small. Pick one thing to add to your world that sparks joy or inspiration, and watch how it shifts your perspective. Breaking the comparison trap. Focus on your growth. Let's get real for a minute. We live in a world that's constantly screaming at us that we're not enough. Scroll through social media, and it's like stepping into a highlight reel of everyone else's perfect lives. Fancy vacations in tropical paradises, flawless skin that looks airbrushed, thriving careers with corner offices and big titles. It's so easy to feel like you're falling short, like you're stuck in the slow lane while everyone else is zooming ahead. That comparison game can leave you feeling small, inadequate, and like you'll never catch up. But here's where Stoicism swoops in and flips that narrative on its head. Instead of measuring yourself against others' curated feeds or shiny achievements, Stoicism says focus on your progress. Are you a little braver today than you were last week? Did you handle a tough situation with a bit more grace, maybe biting your tongue instead of snapping back? That's the Stoic definition of success. It's not about having the biggest house, the flashiest car, or the most followers on Instagram. It's about living true to your values, day in and day out, and becoming the best version of yourself. This Stoic mindset is like a breath of fresh air in a world obsessed with external markers of worth. It reminds us that the real yardstick isn't what others have or what society says you should want. It's how you're growing, how you're showing up for yourself and the people around you. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, were all about focusing on what's in your control. Your thoughts, your actions, your character. You can't control whether someone else gets the promotion or posts a picture-perfect life, but you can control how you respond to challenges, how you treat others, and whether you're living in alignment with what matters to you. That's where the magic happens, when you stop chasing someone else's race and start running your own. Here's a quick story to bring this home. A while back, I was feeling completely stuck, caught in a rut of comparing myself to colleagues who seemed to have it all together. I'd scroll through LinkedIn and see their posts about promotions, awards, or fancy new projects, and my brain would spiral, "I'm so behind. I'll never get there." It was like I was running a race I didn't even sign up for, and I was losing. Then I stumbled across a Stoic exercise that changed everything. Every night, I started writing down one thing I did that day that aligned with my values. Something as simple as staying patient in a stressful meeting, listening to a friend who was going through a tough time, or even just taking a moment to breathe instead of reacting to a frustrating email. It sounds small, almost too simple to matter, but it was a game changer. That little habit shifted my focus from what I didn't have, someone else's job title or success, to what I was building in my own life. Over time, I felt less like I was racing against others and more like I was running my own race, setting my own pace, and celebrating my own wins. This practice works because it pulls you out of the comparison trap and grounds you in what's real. Social media and societal pressures are like funhouse mirrors, distorting reality and making everyone else's life look bigger and better. But Stoicism teaches you to put down the mirror and look at your own path. It's about asking, am I living with integrity? Am I growing in courage, kindness, or wisdom? Those questions cut through the noise and bring you back to what you can control. For example, maybe you didn't get that big break at work yet, but you showed up, did your best, and learned something new. That's progress. Or maybe you're not jetting off to exotic locations, but you made time to connect with someone you care about. That's a win. By focusing on these moments, you start to see your life as a series of choices you're making to live well, not a checklist of things you lack. This Stoic approach isn't just about feeling better, it's about building a life of purpose. It's like training for a marathon. Each step, each choice to keep going, makes you stronger. You stop defining yourself by what's outside and start shaping who you are from within. So, try that nightly exercise. Jot down one thing you did that felt true to you. It'll remind you that success isn't about outshining others, it's about shining your own light. Action is everything, living your virtues. Now, let's talk about action, because all the wisdom in the world is just hot air if you don't put it to work. Knowing how to battle negative thoughts or understanding Stoic principles is great, but it's like having a gym membership you never use. Nothing changes until you start moving. Epictetus, one of the most no-nonsense Stoics, had this straight-up advice. First, decide who you want to be. Then, do what you have to do. Want to be courageous? Don't just wish for it. Go out and be courageous. Want to be kind? Do kind things, even when it's hard. Action is where the magic happens, where ideas turn into reality and you start becoming the person you want to be. It's not about grand gestures or overnight transformations. It's about showing up, day after day, and taking steps that align with your values. Aristotle, whose ideas vibe with Stoicism, had a similar take with his concept of the mean. He said virtue isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling or a nice thought, it's a balance you find through practice. Take courage, for example. It's not about being fearless or charging into every situation like a superhero. It's the middle ground between being reckless, like jumping into danger without a plan, and being a coward, like hiding from every challenge. You don't just wake up one day brimming with courage. It's something you build, one choice at a time. Every time you face a fear, whether it's speaking up in a meeting or trying something new, you're adding a brick to that foundation. The same goes for other virtues, like patience or honesty. They're muscles you strengthen through action, not just by thinking about them. So, how do you make this part of your everyday life? Here's a simple, powerful way to start. Set a Stoic intention each morning. Pick one virtue, like patience, honesty, or kindness, and write it down somewhere, maybe on a sticky note or in your phone. Then, as you go through your day, look for opportunities to live it out. Let's say you choose patience. Maybe it's staying calm when your kid spills juice all over the kitchen floor instead of snapping. Or perhaps you pick honesty, and you choose to be truthful in a tricky conversation, even if it's uncomfortable. These moments might seem small, but they're like reps in a workout. Each one makes you stronger, even if you don't notice it right away. Over time, those tiny actions stack up, shaping your character and turning your values into who you are. Let's make this real with an example. A while back, I decided I wanted to be more patient, especially at work where deadlines and miscommunications were driving me up the wall. I started each day by writing patience in my notebook, reminding myself to embody it. One day, a colleague dropped the ball on a project, and my first instinct was to fire off a frustrated email. But I paused, remembered my intention, and took a deep breath. Instead of reacting, I asked them what happened and worked on a solution together. It wasn't a huge moment, no one threw me a parade, but it felt like a win. I was practicing patience, and it made me feel more in control, more like the person I wanted to be. Those little choices add up, like compound interest in a bank account, building a stronger, more virtuous you. This Stoic approach to action is so powerful because it's about taking responsibility for your growth. You can't control how others act or what life throws at you, but you can control what you do about it. Every challenge, big or small, is a chance to practice your virtues. Spilled juice. A test of patience. Tough feedback at work. An opportunity for resilience. By seeing life this way, you turn obstacles into training grounds. It's like being in a dojo for your mind. Every moment is a chance to get better. So, start small. Pick one virtue, set that intention, and act on it. Watch how those actions, like ripples in a pond, start transforming not just your day, but your entire life. The power of words, shaping your reality. Let's shift gears and dive into something the Stoics were absolutely obsessed with: the power of words. Words aren't just sounds we toss out into the world, they're like arrows, carrying the power to build up or tear down, to inspire or wound. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor who juggled ruling Rome and his own inner battles, was always reminding himself to speak with honesty and kindness. Why? Because words don't just reflect your thoughts, they shape them, molding your mindset and even your reality. Think about how you talk to yourself. If you're constantly muttering, "I'm such a screw-up," every time you make a mistake, those words sink deep, like water seeping into cracks, slowly eroding your confidence. But if you shift to something like, "I'm learning and I'm growing," you're telling a different story, one that's grounded in truth and pushes you forward. This isn't about lying to yourself or slapping on rose-colored glasses. It's about choosing words that align with reality and give you the strength to keep going. Now, let's zoom in on that inner dialogue, because it's where so much of our mental game is won or lost. Your self-talk is like a soundtrack playing in the background of your life, setting the tone for how you feel and act. If that soundtrack is a loop of harsh criticism, "You're not good enough," "You always mess up," it's going to drag you into a spiral of doubt and defeat. But you have the power to change the playlist. Try this. Next time you catch yourself in a negative thought, pause and reframe it. Instead of, "I'm terrible at this," try, "I'm still figuring this out, and that's okay." It's a small tweak, but it's like switching from a gloomy ballad to an upbeat anthem. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, were big on this kind of mental discipline. He'd write in his journal, almost like a pep talk to himself, to focus on what's true and constructive. By choosing words that reflect resilience and growth, you're not just talking, you're training your mind to see challenges as opportunities. Words matter just as much when you're talking to others. Ever notice how a single kind word can light up someone's entire day? A simple, "You did great," or "I appreciate you," can shift someone's mood like flipping a switch. On the flip side, a harsh word, snapped in a moment of frustration, can stick with someone, replaying in their mind long after you've forgotten it. The Stoics believed our speech should be a reflection of our virtues, like honesty, kindness, and self-control. Before you say something, they'd suggest running it through a quick filter. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? This doesn't mean you have to sugarcoat everything or avoid tough conversations. Sometimes, honesty requires saying hard things. But it's about delivering those words with care, with the intent to build up rather than tear down. Imagine how different your relationships could be if every word you spoke was chosen with that kind of purpose. And if you really want to level up your communication game, take a page from Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher who was a master at using words to spark insight. Socrates didn't just lecture people. He asked questions that got them thinking deeply without feeling attacked. In a heated discussion, instead of arguing or shutting someone down, he'd say something like, "Can you tell me more about why you feel that way?" That simple question disarms tension and opens the door to real understanding. Try it next time you're in a disagreement, whether it's with a friend, coworker, or family member. It's like a secret weapon for keeping things constructive, turning a potential clash into a conversation. The Stoics would love this approach because it's rooted in humility and curiosity, virtues they held in high regard. This focus on words, both internal and external, is so powerful because language shapes not just how we're perceived, but how we perceive ourselves. It's like a bridge between your inner world and the outer one. By choosing words that reflect your values, whether you're talking to yourself or someone else, you're reinforcing the kind of person you want to be. So, start paying attention to your speech. Notice the words you lean on, and ask if they're serving you. Swap out the ones that drag you down for ones that lift you up, and watch how they transform your mindset and your connections. Shining a light on the unconscious. Jung meets Stoicism. To wrap this all together, let's bring in Carl Jung, a brilliant psychologist whose ideas mesh beautifully with Stoicism, like two pieces of a puzzle snapping into place. Jung was fascinated by the unconscious, those hidden corners of your mind that drive your behavior without you even noticing. Ever wonder why you keep tripping over the same mental hurdles, like self-doubt or procrastination, even when you know better? That's your unconscious at work, pulling strings behind the scenes. Jung dropped a powerful truth when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." In other words, those sneaky, hidden beliefs and fears can make you feel like you're stuck in a script you didn't write, doomed to repeat the same mistakes. The Stoics would nod along to this, giving Jung a philosophical high five. They believed that by questioning your thoughts, facing your fears head-on, and choosing your words with care, you're shining a light into those shadowy corners of your mind. And when you do that, you're no longer a passenger in your life. You're the one calling the shots, steering your own course. This idea is so powerful because it bridges Stoic wisdom with modern psychology. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, were all about taking control of your inner world, your thoughts, reactions, and choices. Jung adds depth by pointing out that some of those thoughts aren't even on your radar. They're buried in the unconscious, shaped by past experiences, childhood moments, or societal messages you've absorbed without realizing it. For example, maybe you shy away from risks because a long-ago failure left a hidden belief that you're not good enough. Or perhaps you snap at loved ones when stressed because that's a pattern you learned growing up. Until you dig those beliefs out and examine them, they'll keep nudging you toward the same old patterns, making you think it's just how you are. But Stoicism and Jung say no way, you can rewrite that script. Let's make this practical with one last story to show how this works in real life. A few months ago, I was grappling with serious self-doubt about a big project at work. My brain kept hammering me with, "You're not ready for this. You're going to crash and burn." It was exhausting, and I was starting to believe it. So, I decided to try a Stoic-Jung combo to get to the bottom of it. First, I grabbed a notebook and wrote down that thought exactly as it came, "I'm not ready for this." Then, I channeled my inner Stoic and asked, "Where's this coming from? Is there evidence behind this, or is it just fear talking?" I dug a little deeper, Jung style, and realized it was tied to an old memory, a time years ago when I'd failed at something similar and felt humiliated. That failure had planted a seed in my unconscious, whispering that I'd always flop in high-stakes situations. By naming that memory, I could see it for what it was, just a story, not a fact about who I am now. With that clarity, I leaned into a Stoic affirmation to reframe the narrative. I wrote, "I've got the skills, and I'll figure this out, one step at a time." It wasn't about pretending I was perfect, it was about focusing on what I could control: my effort, my preparation, my attitude. That shift didn't make the project a breeze, but it gave me the mental clarity to tackle it without second-guessing myself at every turn. I could approach challenges with focus instead of panic, and when I hit bumps, I didn't spiral into, "I'm doomed." Instead, I thought, "Okay, what's next?" That's the power of combining Stoic discipline with Jung's insight. You uncover the hidden roots of your thoughts and then choose ones that empower you. This approach is something you can try, too. Next time you're stuck in a negative loop, pause and write down the thought. Ask, "Where's this coming from? Is there an old memory or belief driving this?" Then, reframe it with a Stoic lens. Focus on what's true and what you can do. It's like cleaning out a cluttered attic. You find the junk that's been weighing you down, toss it, and make space for something better. By bringing your unconscious into the light and pairing it with Stoic action, you're not just breaking free from old patterns. You're building a life where you're in charge. Your Stoic challenge: start small, win big. Alright, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive into Stoicism, from battling negative thoughts to harnessing the power of our words and actions. So, let's wrap things up with a challenge that can bring all this wisdom into your everyday life. Over the next week, I want you to pick one Stoic practice we've explored. Maybe it's questioning a negative thought the moment it pops up, like Marcus Aurelius grilling his doubts in a mental courtroom. Or perhaps you'll try premeditating a fear, calmly facing the worst-case scenario to strip it of its power. You could also set a daily intention to live with a specific virtue, like courage or kindness, and look for ways to embody it. Whatever you choose, pay close attention to how it feels. Does it shift your perspective, even a little? Do you feel a bit more in control, a bit more grounded? This isn't about flipping your life upside down overnight. It's about taking small, steady steps toward a stronger, wiser, more resilient you. Think of it like planting a seed. Each action nurtures it, and over time, it grows into something solid and lasting. This challenge is your chance to make Stoicism more than just a cool idea. It's about living it. Let's say you pick questioning negative thoughts. The next time your brain says, "You're going to fail at this," pause, write it down, and ask, "Is this true? What's the evidence?" You might find it's just fear talking, not reality. Or if you choose premeditation, take 5 minutes to imagine a stressful situation, like a tough conversation, and think, what's the worst that could happen? Could I handle it? These small practices are like mental push-ups, building strength with every rep. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Notice the moments when you feel a little clearer, a little braver. Those are the wins that add up, shaping a life that's not ruled by doubt but guided by purpose. Why does this matter? Because Stoicism isn't just ancient philosophy, it's a practical guide for thriving in a messy, unpredictable world. The Stoics, like Epictetus and Seneca, faced their own storms, political intrigue, exile, even death threats, but they found a way to stay steady by focusing on what they could control: their thoughts, their actions, their character. That's the gift they've passed down to us. Whether you're stressed about work, navigating a tricky relationship, or just trying to be a better version of yourself, these tools can help you cut through the noise and build a life you're proud of. And the best part? You don't need to be a philosopher or a scholar to do it. All it takes is a willingness to try, to take one step and then another. Let me share a quick story to inspire you. A friend of mine, Alex, was feeling overwhelmed by constant self-doubt about his career. He felt like he was always falling short, no matter how hard he worked. I suggested he try the Stoic practice of setting a daily intention. He chose courage, and each morning wrote down one way he'd embody it, like speaking up in a meeting or tackling a task he'd been avoiding. At first, it felt awkward, but by the end of the week, he noticed a shift. He wasn't fearless, but he was acting in spite of his fears, and that made him feel more in charge of his path. Those small actions didn't just change his day, they started changing how he saw himself. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into Stoicism and mastering your mind. If this sparked something in you, a curiosity, a sense of possibility, I'd love for you to check out our next video, where we'll dive into how to face life's biggest challenges with Stoic grit and resilience. It's linked right on your screen, so just click and keep the journey going. And if you're pumped to keep growing, hit that subscribe button and join our community of wisdom seekers. Share this video with someone who could use a boost, because together, we're not just learning, we're building lives of purpose, strength, and meaning. So, take on that challenge, start small, and let's keep growing. See you in the next one.